Here's another episode of The Stupid Shit I Believed When I Was a Christian. Whoops, wait, wrong show, but definitely the right episode. Welcome to Funny You Say That with Skeptical Scott and friends. If you've ever rethought what you were taught, looked back and said, what was I thinking? Then this show's for you. Join us as we drop the supernatural, embrace the rational, and believe in as many true things as possible. Please welcome to the show, Kyle Butler. What's up, Kyle?
Hey, my man. How you doing?
Man, it's so good to hear your voice live, not just on TikTok or on a Facebook video. But hey, where are you joining us from today?
I'm in the lovely, lovely state of New Jersey.
All right, Jersey, cool. I do some work in Jersey from time to time. I'm joining you though today from Canada. My wife and I have a great summer place here, and we actually live in Michigan though. Anyway, yeah. How would you say you're arriving today to this interview?
Great. I mean, I say great because that's my normal response.
Yeah.
Not to say that everything is always great, but it's a matter of perspective also, right? So,
absolutely it is. Yeah.
I project the feeling of greatness as far as how I feel, and generally, the day pretty much flows that way for the most part.
Oh, man, that's Superman. By the way, Superman just came out, but you're more of a Batman guy, aren't you?
I'm a Batman guy, yeah.
Why do you love Batman?
Because Batman... and there might be other ones out there, but Batman specifically has no superpower. And sometimes when I say that, people say, well, his money is a superpower, and maybe so, but it's not really a superpower. But he has no superpower. He can't fly. He can't run fast. He's not super strong. He can't do what Wonder Woman, or Superman and Green Lantern, all these other people in the DC comic world can do with their powers. But he has something that I think we all have. And that is, he has a desire to make his community better.
Well, hell yeah.
So he uses what he has.
And you know what? Just like the other superheroes use their power for whatever, so he has money. He's using it for something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he kicks ass. So.
And and I think we all have the potential to be Batman. Because you think about Superman, people might think, well, I really can't do much. What can I do? I'm not strong. I'm not this. I'm not that. But you look at Batman, you can say, but you know what? I have this, and I'm going to use this, and it's within my power, and I'm, so on and so forth. So that's why I like Batman, because he's taking what he has and say, you know what? I'm going to use this to make my environment better.
I love it. Well, hey, Kyle, my audience tends to be, agnostics, atheists, ex-pastors like yourself. There's at least one current pastor who listens, and he's a really cool guy, quite progressive, against Christian nationalism. But most listeners are somewhere in that deconstruction space, and I know you're not a big fan of that word, deconstruction. And why is that?
Well, one, it's the church world, the theists. Many of them really try to paint it as it's a really ugly thing. And try to label the people who have deconstructed or deconstructing as people who were never really faithful or dedicated or committed at all. And they use the word to try to make people disassociate from others who do deconstruct. So that's one reason why I don't like the word, because of how they've taken it to make it sound and seem like it's something so nasty, rotten, and dirty. And that's really what the church does. Everything the church doesn't understand, it vilifies or demonizes. But then also there's the other element of it where we didn't really build it. We were part of it. We, most of us, at least in some way, chose at some point to be committed to it as what we were. I know for me, I was kind of born into it from a little kid, so I didn't have much of a choice then. But as an adult, even though I didn't think I had a choice, I really did have a choice. I could have said no and kind of walked my own path, and I wish I had. But anyway, I didn't build the Christian faith or the Christian beliefs. I did run with them for a long time. So I didn't really have to tear it down, more so than I just had to start really taking a good look at what it was that I said I believed, why I believe what I said I believe, and then rethinking the whole thing. So for me, it's more of a thought process rather than a tearing down process.
you don't move back into your childhood home. You find your own home. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's not like you blow up the other home. So it's kind of like how I see it too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Here's another exciting episode of the stupid shit I used to believe when I was a Christian. Well, if you're a Christian, you know that you were born a sinner. Now, that's stupid all by itself. That's absolutely stupid all by itself. But here's where it gets even more stupid. The reason why you were born a sinner is because of something Adam did thousands of years ago. Now, you can say whatever you want to say. You can say whatever you want to say. But that is some stupid, stupid shit.
Listeners, you're going to hear several examples from Kyle's TikToks spliced in throughout this interview. I'd recommend you check our show notes to get connected to Kyle's work. But today, Kyle, for our interview, I'd like to focus on your questimony. You know, what happened, how you feel about it today, right? So first, you've just started alluding to it. Tell us about your relationship to religion. I would say first 18, 20 years of your life.
You know, my mother had her conversion, so to speak. I was about 5 years old. And my mother went hardcore. Everything she had, by virtue of our connection and closeness, she gave that to us, or really tried to give that to us. And she made us kind of what she was. She wanted us to be like her. So from that moment on, we were in church consistently. Everything became about God, Jesus, and the devil. And our lives took a turn more so towards lunacy rather than any type of normalcy. At 19, after having spent the last 14 years or so in the church, young teenage, all that whole thing, I was of the persuasion that, hey, God has a call in my life. If I want my life to be somewhat okay, I better yield to that call before this God gets upset, angry, and does something to me that kind of makes me do it, kind of a thing. Because I kind of grew up in that persuasion of teaching, like, hey, if you don't do what God wants you to do, at some point he'll force you to do it, and you don't want it that way. So at 19, where most 19-year-olds are really just kind of finding a little bit of freedom, they're leaving home for college, they're maybe their first year of college, they're trying to, separate from their parents and kind of find their own identity. At 19, I was making this horrendously foolish decision of saying, well, God, here I am. I'm giving everything to you.
Yeah.
I literally did that. I became a young Pharisee very early, a very ugly version of myself at the time.
What made it ugly when you say ugly version of myself?
By the way I acted, by the way I treated people,
yeah.
The holier than thou, I have 3 sisters and a brother. I'm the oldest, and I really kind of turned into this grouchy, it wasn't me. They weren't as on fire as I was and as committed as I was. So I looked down on them. I treated them harshly in that regard.
Judgmental is what I'm hearing. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very judgmental, very, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing that? How could you, kind of a thing? And it really affected the relationship, because then I got distant. I wouldn't talk to them as much. I wouldn't show them much love. I wouldn't show them much affection. I turned into a really, really ugly Pharisee, really.
And yet you felt kind of righteous, right? I mean,
yeah.
The reason I'm feeling this is because, I'm doing this work for the Lord, and I should expect this. And it's almost like any pushback I get, just as it confirms that I'm doing the right thing in some weird opposite way.
Yeah. I'm on God's side. You guys are not. Shame on you. Hooray me.
I was a Christian pastor for nearly 16 years. So let me tell you something pastors won't tell you. Everything a pastor tells you from the Bible, whether it be something that they believe that God said, or something that God doesn't want you to do, or whatever it is, every single thing a pastor tells you is their opinion only. It's not truth. It's their opinion.
So you decided to become a pastor then, right?
By 21, I was being ordained into the ministry. By 23, I was being ordained again as an elder in the church. And then by 26, the church I grew up in, the pastor decided to retire. And chose me to be his heir apparent.
Wow.
And then at 26, as I said, I started pastoring the church I grew up in. That's how we got to that point.
So wait a minute. 23, you became an elder?
Yes.
It's so funny when I hear the word elder, I think of a title like even from fiction and stuff where it's like the elders. You picture, people with gray hair. You don't picture a 23-year-old. That's great.
Exactly.
Well, did you enjoy being a church leader? Were there parts that you did like?
No.
Wow.
No. Now, here's the thing. 8 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of stuff to me goes back to that 8-year-old boy. So at 8 years old, I remember I would have these, what I call daydreams at the time, where I would envision my life, kind of what I wanted to be. It was kind of like the person in me was showing me at 8 years old what I really wanted to do, what really excited me, what really gave me the passion. I was seeing these things at 8 years old. Also at 8 years old, instinctively, and no one had said anything to me about anything at this point, but at 8 years old, I remember in those moments thinking, I don't want to be a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Dude, I can't remember anything at 8 years old. No wonder you're an elder at 23. You're already thinking of the big life questions at 8 years old, man.
Yeah. But I do remember that. But again, I bought into at least the teaching in my Christian circle that, hey, if God's hand is on your life and God has called you to do something, then you better do it. As a matter of fact, I like to say it this way. The two biggest decisions I made towards God were both fear-based decisions. So I grew up under the age of accountability teaching. So, after 12, if you didn't get saved, if something happens to you, you die, you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
And the second one, the one I just mentioned, that if you don't do what God wants you to do, i.e. Jonah, he'll make you do it.
He's going to pursue you.
So my two biggest decisions at 13 and at 19 were towards God, based solely on fear, completely on fear. I didn't recognize it at the time, but I, look back on it now and say, geez, both of those decisions were all fear-based. So no, I never enjoyed any part of ministry, never enjoyed the pastorship. I abhorred it. I hated being called pastor. I never introduced myself as pastor.
Interesting.
I never wore the T-shirt. I never celebrated. Yeah.
You never used your pastor voice to get out of a traffic ticket?
No.
Man.
No. People who knew me outside of church had no idea I was a pastor. I worked at a job for 4 years, and no one knew I was a pastor.
I actually kind of admire that, Kyle.
Yeah.
I admire that you can be incognito out there.
Yeah.
Batman. Wow.
Yeah.
Here's another exciting episode of the stupid shit I used to believe when I was a Christian. I literally believed that a man named Jonah had gotten swallowed up by a great fish, and he lived in the belly of that fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And then this fish just swam to the shore and regurgitated him out of his body. And Jonah got up, cleaned himself off, and went to Nineveh to preach, repent. I couldn't even, I thought I was going to make it through without laughing, but I couldn't, because that is some stupid shit.
What do you wish people understood about, I don't know, being a pastor or being in that profession? What do you wish people knew?
Well, for people in the church, they probably can't connect the dots to this yet, but I wish everyone would know that your pastor, he or she, is just a human being, first and foremost. They are no different than you. They're no more special than you, no more called or holy or anointed, for those people that use those kind of words. They don't hear from a God more better than you, or they can't interpret anything better than you. They're not. They're just normal human beings just like you. You're all on the same level. And again, I'm speaking to people in the church world. They're all on the same level. I know you think you need them. I know you think you can't do these things for yourself, but that's just part of the programming you've been programmed to believe.
Yeah.
But you're just as capable as they are. You don't need to obey them. You don't need to submit to them. You don't need to make them your mamas and your daddies. You don't need to do any of those kind of things. If you do decide to have a pastor or be part of a church, please know you don't need them. And you most certainly don't need them to be authoritative over your life.
So 4 years goes by. Was it a specific theological idea? Was it the job? Was it sudden? Was it gradual when you said, damn, I don't know about this anymore?
Yeah, it was gradual. It probably started in about 2009. I was still pastoring. By this point, I had fully immersed myself into the grace message and the grace camp. It became all about grace, faith, and the finished work of the cross, which I believed at the time, and I fully immersed myself into that. And it did help me in the sense of it started helping me break away from the religiosity and the work-minded and the performance-based relationship that I had only known up until that point. And I remember when I started diving into grace, I thought, oh man, this is it. This is where we should have started. Like, what were we doing all those other years? I mean, it's grace. It's the finished work. Jesus did it all. We do nothing. Yay!
Now I see what you're saying. Right. It's not our striving or whatever. It's God chose you.
Right.
And
it's
chooses
not how much
to kind
we
of
pray, which I was taught. You got to pray a lot. You got to fast a lot. All the studying, all of this, all of that. Got to be in church every week. It started to ease that for me a great deal at that point. Okay. So it kind of started in 2009. But once that door was open, it just never shut.
Let me actually connect the dot from what we were talking about a minute ago, where you said, hey, listeners, your pastor is not more intelligent or higher than you, etc. I guess what I want to know is why do you think right now that word deconstruction, let's not use the word deconstruction. Let's just look at the stats. It appears more and more people are walking away from religion, and that's been happening for decades. Yes. But why do you think that is happening?
I think it's primarily because of intelligence.
Yeah.
Back in the Bible days, what we know is they thought thunder, for example, was the voice of a God speaking. They did not understand scientifically how thunder is created in our atmosphere. So thunder to them was a sign of a God, either being angry or threatening or something.
The unexplainable.
Well, we've grown up since then, right? We've grown up since then. We know that, no, that has nothing to do with a God whatsoever. Some hot air and some cold air and some this and some that got together and, this combustion happening up in there, up in the sky. We can explain it now. So more and more and more as our intelligence continues to grow through science and technology and all these kind of things, the more we can explain things, the less there's a need for a God.
Let me tell you something your pastors won't tell you. The real reason why they encourage you to come to church, they urge you to be in church, they keep reminding you that you should not forsake the assembling together of the brethren. The main reason why they do that, it's not because they want you to have a stronger relationship with your God you think you have a relationship with. It's so they can meet the weekly budgets.
But Kyle, you are leaning into your own understanding. You can't do that.
Yeah, I can't. Why not? I mean, shame on me, right?
Right.
Now, I think when you talk about scripture, which, again, I find no value for in any real way. But I think that through the years, the editors injected little, what I call humanity stoppers, right? So they injected these little lean not to your own understanding. They saw humanity starting to grow a little bit, and so they would inject a verse that would stop that.
It's the first time I've heard it, humanity stoppers. That's stuck in my head now. I'm going to remember that. That's the oh shit moments. Yeah. Like, oh no, we've let the cat out of the bag.
I think that's one of those things.
We need a bigger bag now or something. I don't know. That makes sense to me. Yeah. And now you got the, not just intelligence, but the access to intelligence, and meaning the internet.
Right. Exactly.
I think has definitely done a lot too. I'm going to just go ahead. You said it was gradual in terms of you walking away. Was there a moment?
Mm-hmm.
Was there a moment that you internally, externally, where you went, I can no longer do this? Like meaning leading the church. When did you say, I got to walk away from this? That
really wasn't how it happened for me.
Okay.
We were having church, and here in New Jersey, and there's sections of the country where it's really tough. What I'm about to describe is really tough for churches. Here in New Jersey, at least in the northern part of New Jersey, it's very difficult for a church if you don't already have an established church building. If I saw an empty building somewhere and I said, "Oh, we want to pursue this to buy it for our church," that's very difficult to do in New Jersey.
Okay.
Especially if it's a tax-strapped town or area or county. So they're scratching for tax dollars everywhere they can find them. They're not willing to take buildings off of the tax roll and make it tax-free for churches. They have no interest in doing that. So they fight tooth and nail. So anyway, it's very difficult to find church space. So we had a space at one point, but the city came in and said, no, this isn't a proper place for a church, so yada, yada. We didn't have a CO, certificate of occupancy. When we looked to pursue to get one, it was just too costly to do it, and the restrictions and all the whole updates were just too much for where we were at that time. So we started sharing spaces with other established churches, and we did that for some time. And the last place where we were sharing, that space became unavailable to us. And so I, as the pastor, did what I'd always done. Okay, God, Lord, Jesus, here we are. We're in this space again. We need another space. You're going to open up a door like you always did. And I'm sure by next Sunday, we'll be back into another place. Because it had always happened that way.
Yeah. 1
week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, a month, 2 months, 3 months went by, 4 months went by, and I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what you're doing here. And it never happened. But I knew instinctively that I didn't want to push the issue.
Right. You didn't have a ton of fight at the moment.
Right. Yeah. No more fight.
This has to happen.
And I said, you know what? If this happens, it's going to be all God all the way, whatever that looks like. And it never happened. And then during that time, having time to think, little by little, it started really unraveling at that point because I wasn't as connected to it on a weekly basis.
Oh, right. You've got margin to think now too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if I would have still walked away because when I started, really changing and moving towards where I am now, I stopped taking speaking engagements.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because I knew I could not just stand in front of people anymore and peddle them something to tickle their emotions. And I didn't believe in any of it anymore. There's no amount of honor, no amount of adulation, no amount of, audience or anything that would entice me to want to say, oh, yeah, I'll go preach. I mean, I don't believe this stuff internally, but I'll preach, sure. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand in front of people. Now, keep in mind, I wish Christianity was good for people in a sense of if this is really something that's going to help people, then I'm all for it. If you're really going to help people in a real substantial, tangible way, why would I be against it?
Well, and aren't you and I both challenged on that sometimes of, hey, just leave me alone if it helps me. You don't understand. Jesus saved me from fill in the blank. And it's like, so don't pull this rug out from underneath me because I'm leaning on it. I kind of get it, but I don't want to be selling them the rug.
Right. Exactly. I'm not here to tell the Christian that has made the choice, I'm going to go to church. I still love God. I still love Jesus. I see nothing wrong with it. I'm not here to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about that. I'm here to talk to the people who are starting to think for themselves, ask the questions, feel disconnection, starting to venture out into other thoughts and ideas, I want those people to know, hey, number one, you're not alone. You're not crazy. Let me share my thoughts, ideals, and experiences. Maybe they relate to you, and maybe you can find a sense of community with people like me.
Oh, well stated. Hey, and y'all, you hear the music. It's that time. It's time for the Skeptic of the Show. Today's Skeptic, I bet you can tell. Here we go. So, if the God Christians believe in, the God they say is merciful, loving, long-suffering, patient, so on and so forth. And if the story of Noah's Ark was a real event, how would one explain that God just is sitting there while countless people were crying, begging, yelling, screaming for mercy and help? I'm sure most of these people didn't understand what was going on and why this was happening. How could this loving God sit there through all of those cries of agony? Where was the mercy? Where was the grace? Where was the love? Any guesses, Kyle, on that quote, who that might be?
Sounds a little familiar.
I got it right from yesterday's post on Facebook. All right. I had to feature that. And at the time of recording, everybody, I believe the Ark encounter just had a counter protest, which I just love down in Kentucky that there are people counter protesting that whole story. But man, that Noah story is cray cray. I will never understand how anyone could suspend their belief in common sense to sustain their belief in the Bible.
Yeah.
We're going to transition to this interview a little bit, Kyle, to kind of where you are today. You're quite open about the stupid shit you used to believe, the way you put it. It makes you laugh.
Oh, yeah.
It makes me laugh. I want to know what drew you to TikTok.
Initially, my interest to TikTok was just going to be a place where I was just going to share motivational life stuff.
Yeah.
Money topics, credit topics. The very first video I did was an introduction to myself. Hey, I'm just going to talk about, money and budgeting and credit and, relationships and life stuff, right?
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, I've always been an encouraging person, wanted to share information, wanted to help people with information and things that can help us get better at life, at doing life. So that was my first initial interest into it. I was just thinking about that. I think I may have created one video in the deconstruction / rethinking things world. I think I did one or two, and those videos were getting a lot more attention.
Mm-hmm. That sparked a lot of responses.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something here to this. I was already doing it on Facebook. My content, leans towards deconstruction a lot or rethinking, but I do add in inspirational, motivational, love people kind of stuff. On Instagram, it's pretty much all just inspirational stuff.
Yeah, I don't feel like you're just hating on. You're not just hating on, where you came from and all that. I really don't feel like that. I feel like you're just pushing things a little, and also you're championing some hope as well. As far as, hey, I don't think everybody's cray cray. I don't think, there are a lot of good people out there. So I think you're doing a little of both, and I've been digesting your stuff for a while, and I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bet.
Thank you so much.
Here's another exciting episode of the stupid shit I used to believe when I was a Christian. Well, I literally believed that if I took my money, put it in an offering plate, that God would take that money, multiply it, and give it back to me. Yeah. I know. Yeah, I know. That's some stupid shit.
And so, listeners, as you can hear, you've been hearing a couple of ones that I've chosen from Kyle's account. I would definitely highly recommend that you join it. Hey, I'm curious, though, now that you're on this platform and, connecting with people probably, but I'm wondering if you've had any pushback from old friends or old colleagues or maybe even family?
I've been fortunate not to get any real kickback from family. Next to my mom in our family, I was the next one as focused, dedicated, and strong as she was, or she is. I became the pastor, so I was pastoring my family members who also attended this church. And I'm the biggest brother. I'm the oldest brother. So I've always had a great deal of respect from my siblings in my family. They've always looked up to me. They've always respected me. Despite that little moment I had where I was really not myself with my family because of the foolish religious mindset I had adapted for that season, we've always been all very, very close, very loving, very supportive of one another.
Good.
So I have their respect in that regard. And with my mom, I in the beginning of my deconstruction or rethinking years, I still use the word deconstruction because people relate to it. In the beginning of that time, I was really trying to get her to see what I was seeing, until one day it hit me, Kyle, you can't make her see something she doesn't want to see, which then showed me that I can't make anyone see something they don't want to see.
Yeah.
So then I stopped pushing it from that perspective, where it became, now it's just my thoughts, my ideas, my feelings, my opinions. So I try to express everything in first person. Like today I said, I can't see any reason why I want to go back to church, instead of saying, anyone that goes to church is crazy. You guys are stupid.
Exactly. Great point.
Yeah.
And again, like a lot of your TikToks start not, here's some of the stupid shit you believe.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, here's some of the stuff I used to believe. So
exactly.
Changing that, owning it for yourself.
Yeah, because I'm not here to hurt people,
No.
but I do want to shine a light on the beliefs that I think are nonsensical, harmful, toxic, and demeaning to humanity. I do want to do that.
Yeah.
Because these are not people, and they should be under criticism, are open to speculation, are open to scrutiny, are open to questions, thoughts and ideals and beliefs and narratives. We should be looking at them very, very earnestly, very, very closely, asking questions, see if they're moving with the flow of humanity. How do they fit with today's generation? We should be looking at these things always.
And if somebody plays the card of humanity stopper, then you should know, hey, there's something here.
Yeah. I used to say this when I first started opening up. I said, humanity has always gathered around campfires of different things throughout our history. So we've been around this campfire and that campfire, whatever the case might be. But with everything else, except for religion, the campfires keep moving. So in science, they keep moving. Education, they keep moving. Technology, they keep moving. The only campfire that's in the same exact place is religion. It never moves.
Yeah.
It expects everyone to stay around that same old, antiquated, outdated campfire. Why?
In the book that Christians believe is inspired by their God, meaning their God gave them this book, this God spoke these words to to certain people, and they wrote them down word for word, verbatim, whatever this God said, and that these words over time have been preserved. The book is infallible. There's no contradictions. Every word is true. So in that Bible, it says, when this God is having a conversation with its adversary, Satan, it says to Satan, where are you coming from? And Satan goes, I'm just kind of walking around, seeing whose life I can fuck up, basically. So if Satan is walking around free to this day, because there's nothing in that book that says that has changed. So if Satan is walking around, roaming the earth freely, and people who simply did not recite the magic prayer to get saved, those people are in hell. Yeah, think about it. Your grandfather, who just never got saved, is burning in hell right now, while Satan is walking around freely. Yeah. Now you tell me with your logical, rational mind, you tell me that that's not completely nonsensical and full of shit. Go ahead. You tell me. You tell me.
Let's say someone is listening right now and they still say, hey, I still love Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure about the church right now, but I still love Jesus. Like, what would you say to them?
I have a good friend of mine, and she's still connected to the church. She still wants her Jesus and everything like that. And I say, listen, I say to her specifically, I'm not trying to take away your Jesus. The only thing I'm saying is everything else you've been doing robotically necessary for you in order to still keep your Jesus? Because you can keep your Jesus.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you don't have to robotically go to church like you've got no choice every week. You can keep your Jesus, but you don't have to do all these other things that you just do robotically. So, yes, if you want to keep your Jesus, and if the story, the narratives around Jesus make you feel better, if you think Jesus is helping you be a better person, by all means, keep Jesus, please.
But the rest of it really is a choice, right?
Right.
It's all a choice, but
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing you say there is that if there is some kind of expectation like tithing or you must be here every week or you must serve or whatever, that did not come from Jesus.
Right.
That came from another human.
Yeah. You can look at the story of Noah's Ark and say, you know what? I call that bullshit, but I still love Jesus. You can do that. You can look at the narrative of eternal conscious torment, a place of hell, of eternal conscious torment. You can look at that and say, you know what? Yeah, I don't think that a loving God would do that. I'm going to call bullshit on that, but I'm going to keep my Jesus. You can do that instead of going lock, stock, and barrel with, nope, Noah's Ark is real. I don't care what nobody said. Nope, hell is real. I don't care what anybody says. And you're afraid to critically think about these topics because you think you're going to offend your Jesus. Well, no. Yeah. Keep your love for Jesus, but don't stop looking at these things critically.
And do you think Jesus wants a relationship with a robot if he's there?
Exactly.
This has been great, man. Thanks for letting me borrow you on a Sunday. But yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want our listeners to know?
Wherever you are on your journey here, I want to encourage you to enjoy the journey itself. And for me, I found the best way to do that is finding yourself, instinctively knowing you from the inside. Wherever that journey leads you, wherever that path takes you, find that peace in that part of that journey for you. And when you get there, when you feel good about where you are, and you feel that peace about where you are, that's when you know you've arrived. So if you're struggling right now with different thoughts and ideas, and should I this and should I that, that's just telling you that you're not there yet internally with who you are and where you want to be. But I want to encourage you, keep going. Challenging beliefs are difficult when you first start. It's lonely at times perhaps, but you've made the decision to do it. The reason why is because inside you, the you inside of you, is trying to bring you to a place where you have complete comfort and peace about what you believe. And it's a very beautiful place. So I encourage you to keep going, motivate you, inspire you to do it. It'll change your life in ways you never imagined, and you'll finally start to feel good about the journey called life. So take the journey. It'll be worth it.
Great statement, man. And it's certainly better than preaching something you don't believe and having that dissonance, right? I can hear that piece coming from you. And I think that's something that's the ultimate piece we want. So thank you for joining us again today.
Thank you. Thank you as well.
We grew up with shadows in our heads, told to fear the monsters under the bed. Rules like chains, heavy and tight. Don't you dare question the light. But then you spoke, broke the spell. Kyle, you rang that freedom bell. Thank you, Kyle, for the truth you bring, for saying no to the puppet strings. Thank you, Kyle, you made it clear. Drop the stupid, leave the fear.
Thanks for listening to Funny You Say That with Skeptical Scott and friends. Find all of our episodes and social media channels at skepticalscott.com.
Gave us courage.
Got some feedback or a question? Email me at heyskepticalscott@gmail.com. Drop the supernatural, embrace the rational, believe in as many true things as possible. See you every first and third Friday. Cheers!